Many, including myself, have been really critical of the ACC in recent weeks. In the face of widespread conference realignment, the ACC has done relatively little to insulate itself from the SEC and the Big Ten, which is threatening to crowd out its Power 5 competitors from the market for elite college sports. But as it turns out, the ACC's grant of rights agreements, which binds schools to the league primarily through television contracts and runs through 2036, will actually be insurance against poaching instead of what drives prominent schools away. The ACC's grant of rights deal, which, as I said, runs through 2036, ensures that even if a school leaves the conference, the league still owns the right to broadcast their home football games. The ACC is tied to ESPN and the ACC network, so they would still be allowed to broadcast those games and get all of the revenue from them. Even if, say Clemson or Florida State or Miami, a few of the schools that have been mentioned to be exploring a way out of the ACC and its grant of rights agreement, it would ensure that the ACC still gets the revenue from their home football broadcasts. At the opening of SEC Media Days, Commissioner Greg Sankey said that his conference will not get in the middle of another league's grant of rights agreement. It's almost certainly a response to the rumors that came out last week that ACC schools Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, and North Carolina were exploring pathways out of the grant of rights agreements and into the SEC. Those rumors seem to come out of left field a little bit to begin with, but this statement from Sankey that he gave on Monday almost certainly quashes that speculation and ensures that the ACC will remain intact, at least for the near future. It will stay intact because no school, pretty much no matter how rich you are, even Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, who are all delaying their moves to the SEC and the Big Ten because of their grant of rights agreements and their contracts with their current conferences, they cannot afford to forfeit more than a decade or years of television revenue, in addition to paying the exit fees that would inevitably come from litigation with their conferences. What's more, no conference would want to burden themselves with a school that doesn't own their television rights and can't bring in any television revenue. That's where most of the money that you see coming into these football programs and athletic departments as a whole comes from. It comes from television revenue, the agreements that each of these conferences have with ESPN and Fox and CBS and the national broadcasters. So, what was once seen as a massive liability, something that was handicapping the ACC, its grant of rights agreements, particularly the length of it, will now actually be one of its lone trump cards against an incursion on its membership. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips now has at least a little bit of time to figure out how it can retain its biggest cash cows, like Clemson, like Florida State, Miami, even UNC, and remain an elite in college sports.